So, closely related to obsessive thought patterns, let's talk about apocalyptic thinking. Bear with me for a second. I need to see if something's working right on my computer. Okay, good. It is. Yeah, let's talk about apocalyptic thinking. This is not just garden variety anxiety, it is quite different. Just to give a few examples of apocalyptic thinking within religious communities, I am told that there are ultra Orthodox Jewish communities that are trying to birth as many babies as possible in order to rebuild the millions killed during the Holocaust. Um, there are some white Christian extremist groups that are trying to have as many babies as possible so that America won't be overrun with brown and black people. Um, Another example, I was raised knowing a lot about the Holocaust, and I was raised fearing martyrdom and torture and Armageddon and the apocalypse and fearing for the souls of all of the countless people who will burn in hell for all eternity in a lake of fire, where there will be weeping and wailing and gnashing of teeth. Like this is tough stuff to deal with. A lot of fundamentalist religious folks are preppers, which means that they spend a lot of time studying what kinds of food can be kept the longest, maybe possibly even building a bunker. I have some friends who feel very guilty for not being better prepared. And I am not in any way saying that preparing for natural disasters is a bad thing. I actually think it's a good thing. I've always thought that the Mormon directive to keep on hand, I think it's described as a year's worth of every needful thing. I think that having close to that or some portion of that is really wise. We live in a world where there's this vast infrastructure and this vast network of people, and we need electricity and fuel for our food and water and shelter and heat and basic survival. So I think it's really good to be prepared. But what I'm pointing out here is that for many of us who grew up very religious, apocalyptic thinking for us has become completely normalized. We can't remember a time when we didn't think that way. And it's much more normalized for us than it is in the general population. And this builds into us a habit of really thinking in terms of catastrophe a lot of the time. My brain goes straight to worst case scenarios all the time. Super easy for me to plan out worst case scenarios. Um, Catastrophizing, thinking in terms of catastrophe, for many of us was a normal part of our upbringing. And to some extent, it became a part of our thought processes that we just naturally gravitate to because it's an old habit. Um, in religious worldviews, and this is a little bit related to what we talked about before, there's a very beginning, middle, and end quality about the worldview. God created the world, there's a huge plan, and we're in the middle of the plan or getting toward the latter days of the plan. And then it's all going to change radically, and it's going to end in some sort of huge change, Armageddon, and then heaven or hell or outer darkness or whatever your religion taught you. It's a big, sweeping, epic story, but oftentimes these religions have some kind of a cataclysmic end as a part of what they're taught. And so that's difficult because it leads us to anxiety. It leads us to worrying about this big, scary end of the whole world kind of thing. And almost all of my current clients are, and I'm not saying they're wrong about this, but most of us take that thought process now. And even if we've completely left whatever religion we grew up in, we now apply that thought process to global warming and climate change, and the whole world's going to catch fire. And again, I'm not saying don't worry about those things. I'm definitely not saying climate change isn't real, because I absolutely believe that climate change is a huge deal and we really need to be doing something about it. But what I notice about my clients is we don't think we can fix it. Now, partly that's just natural human thinking because each of us is only one person and we can't control the entire world. But we tend to go to the scary story of what's going to happen in the end. The whole world is going to catch on fire. And we just kind of stay there in a state of anxiety. And that's really tough. The fact is, There are people in existence who are figuring out how to clean up the oceans. There are people in existence. I just watched a great documentary last night that included a piece of replanting a rainforest in South America. A lot of my deeply religious clients, we don't so much think in those terms. That we were taught that the end catastrophe is kind of a foregone conclusion, and we just have to get prepared for it. And I teach people to start thinking about what we can change, start thinking about what we can fix, start finding the answers that are out there, doing the creative thinking that leads us to make change where we can, rather than fearing this huge, ultra terrifying future that we think is going to happen to us. Bear with me for a second while I check something on my computer. Yep, let's do that. Um, so, yeah, uh, one of the things I notice is that the way that we were brought up is the opposite of what Buddhism teaches, for example. And I find that people who grew up ultra religious can be very resistant to even trying to fix our current problems because we can get fixated on this vast future outcome and we're not focused on now. It takes some time to learn how to do one step at a time, one day at a time, put one foot in front of the other, change what you can, taking things step by step instead of just focusing on a huge, scary future. So, I have lots and lots of tools that I use with clients to help us sorry, I'm losing my words, to help us not to catastrophize things. But one of the things is to really just focus on the simple pleasures in life. A good cup of something that you like to drink, a good meal, anything, walking, looking at the trees. I have gorgeous trees outside my windows and the sky is blue today, and just looking at the clouds, all of these simple pleasures, because we tend not to be good at focusing on the present moment because we're so focused on this scary future, bringing ourselves back to the present moment over and over and over again, and really tuning into the things that we can enjoy is really useful. Um, I have a lot of trouble personally, a true personal difficulty with mindfulness. I am not good at being mindful. And I think this is a lot of why. In my mind, there is still programming that I'm still taking apart that says the whole universe exists on this big beginning, middle, end timeline. And the middle kind of almost doesn't matter because I'm just preparing for the end. Um, that's still hard for me. I'm still learning it, but I've also learned a lot of it and I'm a lot better at it than I used to be. And so we can just keep learning to focus more on the present moment, focus more on the things that bring us joy. Um, and a lot of people start out feeling very bleak at first and feeling like they're not really very much in touch with joy. But I promise you, we are all capable of finding the things that bring us joy. All of us, even if you can't think of anything at all right now, you are capable of getting back in touch with what brings you joy. And this is one of the best things that we can do for ourselves. It's one of the best things we can do for clients is put ourselves back in touch with the things that make life worth living for us. So that's a little bit about apocalyptic thinking. And up next, we're going to talk about why we tend to be susceptible to manipulation and gaslighting.